What's up and welcome to the Non-Fungible Creator Show. This is your host Non-Fungible TC, Non-Fungible today and Non-Fungible tomorrow. And it has been quite some time since I've done the show, but today we are very honored to have Dr. Ramos, aka BebeChez, on the show. He is the founder of Digimonkz and lead advisor and wellness guru for Yogapetz. So without further ado, let us begin. So GM Dr. Ramos, thank you so much for being here. To start off, can you share more about yourself before Web3? How do you get into Yale University and why do you study neuroscience? And how do you get into yoga and wellness in general? And what was the point when you were enlightened in the Web2 space?
Thank you, GM. Glad to be here. Yeah, I started at a very young age. Maybe like when I was in my teens, I just wasn't like a regular kid. I always wanted to kind of push limits. And when it came to stress and disease, I always felt like people settled for kind of like a subpar experience when they could have so much more. And so I remember at a young age, I was already like researching how to extend my lifespan and started to do research on that and read about it, how to live healthier. And I didn't really have a good upbringing in the sense that my parents really weren't that involved. So I was, for the most part, like a young kid. And then all of a sudden, my dad passed away when I was in college. And that really kind of was a difficult moment for me because now I was about to go to Yale. I was a child, really, in many respects, now about to go to a different culture, a different place, because I grew up in the Caribbean in Puerto Rico. And so now I'm going to the US to start neuroscience. And the reason why I wanted to start neuroscience, because when I was an undergrad, I used to do research in like alternative healing modalities and psychic healing and different things. And so I was very interested in how we as a conscious being interacted with our nervous system and whether in fact there was more to us than the body and what we experience on a day-to-day basis. And so that led me on a very long journey through neuroscience, through research. I became like a stress specialist, as well as an expert in anti-aging, how to enhance brain and body function. And when I was around 25, I ended up experiencing yoga in a class, and it seemed like I had done it before. It just came very naturally to me. And I went from beginner to very advanced in a span of less than a year, because whenever I do anything, I try to do it in a kind of like a very wholehearted way. Like if everything is that I do is like the love of my life. And so I really kind of dove deep and went on this journey of a couple of decades almost of not only just doing research and teaching and learning, especially young people of young millennial age or down, a lot of their needs. It led me to develop in the Web2 space. That book, The Art of Stress-Free Living, was one of kind of the first things where I just started to really understand that I needed to heal people, because my first book is actually not published, but I'll be making available to Digimonkz, which is called Voyage from Human to God. And I realized that book was not for most people, that I needed to do some work before. And it led me to the publication of that book, The Art of Stress-Free Living, as well as my DNA Hacker Secrets, which was originally a book. But then when the pandemic kind of event happened, I realized I needed to kind of pivot. And I changed the book into a mastermind that's now part of Digimonkz that we'll talk about later. And that led me to, a lot of moments of research in crypto and NFTs that has led me to this moment of just really focusing on what I've done really my whole life, which is not think about how many people I was serving, whether I was making money, pride, ego, prestige, but just deliver value repeatedly to whomever was ready to receive it.
So this really actually ties into our next question, because you mentioned about NFTs and crypto. How did you first come across the NFT space and also the crypto space?
Yeah, I mean, crypto, I think it was a thing. I teach this idea of like the law of karma in a kind of like digital way. I have found that the more I fill my space of consciousness with truth and value, I just seem to attract it in return. And I found that in my life, things seem to come to me in ways that I can't describe. They seem kind of magical in a sense. And so I had this experience where I just started reading about this guy, Tika Tiwari, who's very famous in crypto and research. And I just started to like listen to what he was saying. I just became really intrigued. And it was kind of like during that pivotal time. I was also kind of reading about finance, about from a number of different people. And I found out something about the repo market that was very interesting that happened in 2019, right before this whole kind of agenda of the pandemic happened. And I realized something big was happening in the world that went beyond what we were being told in the media. And so I just started to do research and just started to learn about crypto, started to invest in crypto, started to really shift everything, all my retirement accounts, etc. And then I started to, as I was researching and started to dabble, I really had a dead Twitter account. I was just using Twitter more for like my own research, following certain people, the same thing in YouTube, following like people that I felt I could learn from. And then what happened was I started to kind of hear about NFTs. And at first I thought it was really like a way for people to lose their Ethereum. I just felt like it was some scam, whatever. I really didn't understand that. I didn't give it a chance. And it wasn't until the end of the summer of 2021 that I started to really kind of pay attention to it. And of course, I invested in some NFTs that ended up going to zero. Some I still hold that are still really good. And then I ended up running into the CyberKongz ecosystem. And then I just kind of like really started to get a sense of really the power of Web3, the power of community, branding, authenticity. I started to meet a lot of really cool people. And I just became a student. I just sat and I went into spaces with like, I wanted to learn about coding. I would go into like the anonymized spaces and would hear stuff and I wouldn't understand half of it. But I just kept learning and learning. And as I learned, I started to notice something, which I think we get to later on, which is an aha moment that I had in Web3, which was, it happened in a constant project called the Zen Apes, where at that time I was kind of like the wellness guru, what I do now with the Yogapetz, but now with the Yogapetz, I do it at a much grander scale. And that's where I saw that they had like these bones, these bare bones of what gave me this vision of what was the future. And in that moment, it was like a synthetic moment, like an intuitive, creative moment where I saw my future flash in front of me. And I knew that Web3 was where I needed to take all of what I have been doing for the past few decades. And that's where I was going to kind of gift the space what they needed, because there was a huge need in the space for what I was doing.
When you first come into the space, right, you mentioned that you thought it was like a scam, but then you embraced different NFT communities and you were able to find out the potential of the community. So do you see a big demand for mindfulness and wellness in the space? Like similar to Web 2, you mentioned that there was this aha moment. What was that aha moment for you in Web 3?
I think I was way ahead because I've been talking about all the things that are now becoming mega trends for well over 10 years. And a lot of people thought that, I was kind of this eccentric guy that was talking about eating this way or thinking this way or breathing this way, etc. And then there's definitely space. And what people don't realize, of course, the market is young, and a lot of people in the NFT crypto space are young as well. So they're a culture that really likes gaming, gambling, a lot of risky stuff, a lot of community, a lot of craziness, memes, etc. It's a very engaging space. But at the same time, that engaging space and the relationship that people have in this space with technology is very damaging to them. And I've been talking about this since I was in my 20s with experts that do research in attention deficit, autism spectrum. And I started to find a correlation between the rise in these conditions and the exposure to technology, especially at a young age. And so I saw a huge need. And what people don't realize is that the mental wellness, holistic health, self-mastery, so on and so forth, meditation, mindfulness, this area is a globally a gigantic market that's at least twice as big as gaming. And so while everybody was focused on creating projects for gaming, I decided to just focus on a bigger market, and a market that I felt people would value a lot more because it was really within them. They were struggling with it. Nobody was providing the outlet. I went into one community after another on Discord, and I would see mental wellness, this or that, but it really wasn't well done. It was just like an area where people would just kind of generally casually talk about it or post links to YouTube videos or what have you, but it wasn't curated. And what it needed was an expert that not only had the background, but also understood the people that they were serving, because I myself could really, I can put myself in their shoes. I know what it's like, and I know their struggles, because when I was younger, in a way, I'm like tailor-made for this, because even though I did not grow up in social media, I did grow up in gaming, because at a young age, I had an Atari. Then I just kept gaming throughout all of that. And so gaming really formed a part of my childhood. But at the same time, I think about my childhood, and it wasn't like the childhood of a lot of kids now. I did get a lot of exposure outside with nature, with other kids, a lot of healthier social contact. And so in some respects, I feel like I was preserved from some of the damages that I could have gotten if I grew up in this era, especially with the parents that I had that were really not hands-on. And so this is why I said that earlier, that when I was now going to go into college and beyond, I was really a kid in many respects. And so, and then of course, when I got into research, my research wasn't attention deficit, wasn't cognitive enhancement, wasn't molecular psychiatry, and a lot of areas that now made me like the ideal conduit to really not just appreciate technology and what we could do, because I really see technology as the yin to ancient wisdom's yang. So it's kind of like a balancing effect. So I saw an opportunity here to really kind of marry this. And I really give props and kudos to George, who, I don't know if he still is a CyberCon, but he was one of the co-founders of Zen Apes, where we would have discussions about this. And him and I almost left Zen Apes at the same time. And since then, I've always kind of carried that idea that it's not about East versus West. I always value Western approaches, because to be successful in Eastern practices, you need to really be in touch with yourself and really recognize that what brought me into the present wasn't ideal, and that I needed to find ways to marry both these ancient practices with these new technologies and use technology in a different way, in a way that could help us.
Yeah, you were mentioned that this space needs an expert, and I'm glad that we have an expert like yourself here trying to advocate this. I always use the analogy that the Web3 space is a place where people, chase their dreams. Like some of them, chase a dream of getting financial independence or, financial freedom. Some would like to start an IP with a project, and some would like to build a community like what you're doing as well with Digimonkz. So from a wellness and neuroscience point of view, what advice do you have for people involved in the space to practice self-actualization and achieve these goals, as in with the views of like maybe yoga, with your expertise in neuroscience?
I think people don't realize that to get to a place of success requires sacrifice and commitment and discipline. My life isn't easy. I've had a lot of turbulence in my life, a lot of difficulties. Like I mentioned, I lost my dad at a young age. My mom struggled with mental health issues. I look back on my life and I realized that for a good chunk of my 20s, I was depressed. I had a hard time really attending. And I think that what saved me was that I had a really motherly figure during graduate school. My thesis advisor, that was also a master teacher and taught me a lot that I still apply to this day. And so there's a lot of noise in life and a lot of like highs and lows. And even during my graduate degree, I remember I had a lot of setbacks. And at every turn, my thesis advisor would always say, "Oh, you handle that very zen-like." And part of the key is that I don't get lost in what will happen in the future. And I don't like to linger in the past. What happened in the past happened. I can't change that. The only thing that I can change is right now. And so a lot of times we have to wrestle with our emotions. And a lot of times our emotions get the best of us. And so I've really developed a system that I want to share with the space, a system to start to develop a better way of scheduling ourselves into the day, taking steps and taking breaks, not really grinding through the day, knowing that if I miss a trade or I miss an NFT project that meant that's okay, that it's not the end of the world. That if I had money in FTX or something like that, or in Luna, that it's really not going to be the end of the world. A lot of times, things that happen to us in the now, we magnify so greatly. We suffer and we struggle and we cry and we yell or what have you. But then a month or a year later, we look back and it just seems like nothing. And so we often make our present a turbulent space that can really mess with our mind and can get in the way of our success as an investor, let's say. And so this week, we're recording this in the second week of November. And this coming week, we're going to be doing in the space a number of Twitter spaces on this topic because it's really needed. The market is really struggling. Every time that we have kind of an explosion, something chaotic, something really kind of gloom and doom, it really siphons out liquidity. It siphons out people from the space, and it really hurts the crypto and the NFT space as a whole. But at the same time, I want to do these spaces because I want to paint a different picture. I want them to understand at a macroeconomic and fundamental level that all the fundamentals are there and that there is a movement towards something bigger, and that we can't lose sight just because something happened right now, that the future is there for us to really be successful. And so fitting ourselves more, taking breaks and not grinding through the day, and having a different relationship with technology. This is why at the core foundation of what I want to do is I want to build spaces, virtual spaces, where people can go as a refuge, not just a Discord, but virtual spaces as well, where imagine you can put a headset on and some headphones and just take a break and kind of tune into something else. And so we'll talk about later about Yogapetz as well, what we're trying to do there, where we're trying to kind of like bring into the mainstream these practices that may seem ancient, but just because they're ancient doesn't mean they're not advanced. They're really advanced practices that are going to help people reconnect, self-realize or self-actualize, enlighten, and heal.
So you mentioned that there's always different views in terms of time, right? You do not look back, but you do not to over anticipate the future, but to really be in the present. And even though right now it's all doom and gloom in the present, as long as we zoom out, right? Everyone says this in the charts, right? When you zoom out, you basically see that it's only a point of time, and there's no worth in having anything to affect you in the long period of time, because it is only a small point of time. So I was gonna ask you more about advice for people in terms of mindfulness, but I know that you're trying to accomplish this with Digimonkz, and so maybe we could share more about Digimonkz. This virtual space that you're talking about. What are you trying to accomplish with this project?
Yes, in the light paper, I mentioned this concept of most people live in an outdated universe, in a universe based on a poor understanding of loss. Most people live in a Newtonian world. But there's a universe now accessible to us that is the quantum universe. So when I talked about the past and the future, everything is about probability, everything is about math. And if I have a better understanding of the driving forces in the now, I can better predict from a probable standpoint, statistically speaking, I can better predict the future. It's not that I have a crystal ball and you can't predict this 100% ever. Science is never 100%. But you can better predict relative to somebody else a future outcome. But the problem is that if in the now it's chaotic and I start to anticipate the future, I start thinking about it, I worry about the future, what happens is that my mind starts to oscillate. It starts to reach out and starts to grasp at different options, different outcomes that may be present in the now, but are not there yet. And because my mind can't, my mind is very mathematical. My brain operates in a very mathematical way. And if I start to reduce probability, it creates stress, it creates anxiety. And thus, at the same time, if I linger in the past, I start to reduce probability and I coalesce my mind into one outcome, something that happened already that I can think of and that I can hold on to. Both of these produce mental health issues. The future leading more to anxiety and the past leading more to depression. And so we have to be very careful with this. And what I want to do is I want to teach people how to be more mindful and rooted in the now and to channel their energy better in the present. Because a lot of times people say, no, I'm present, and they're doing a lot of things, they're busy, but they're not present within themselves. They're diffusing their energy outside of themselves and they're depleting themselves. And so there's a process with the Digimonkz where I'm going to go step by step, first to heal the mind, heal the body, and then heal the spirit, and go step by step through a foundational way so that people can learn to really build a strong base that does not need any drugs or technology, really. But what I'm going to do with technology, since you asked this, is I don't know much about. I'm not a technology guy. I'm a creative spirit that can pump ideas left and right. I'm always thinking about projects. I'm always pushing the edge of what can be done. But what I was really lacking was being with creative people like yourself, like people, the team at the Yogapetz, that gave me, it's weird because when I met them, Kakarot and the rest of the team, I realized that both of us were working on the same thing, but we were just doing it in different ways. And so it just led to kind of like a perfect marriage, like a synchrony, where now I realized that the opportunity now was there in front of me to take everything that I was building and to have people now help me bring it into Web3, bring it into like a virtual reality format, an augmented reality format that if you're interested, I can talk a little bit about my idea of Hey Bebe, which is like think of Hey Siri, but in a more of a personalized, your own on-demand guru, coach, mentor that will really replicate me and what I will be teaching using artificial intelligence. And so there's an opportunity now with all these big mega trends to take all these amazing technologies and now create something immutable on the ledger, using blockchain technology, smart contracts that can really take us to another level. Like we were talking about before we started this, even taking, being able to have my followers connect their wallet, their Digimonkz, they can now access my virtual reality space, like a digital ashram, I call it. When I've welcomed all of the people that got into the Digimonkz as seekers, the role of seeker, so they can mint. I always said, welcome to the digital ashram. And a lot of people didn't understand what that meant because it's not created yet. People thought it was, I'm just welcoming them to the Discord. The Discord is really a Web 2 version of what we're doing. Even a phone app is a Web 2 version. Right now, we're in a Web 2 version as well. But in the future, it will be very different. everything will be a lot more immersive. And there's a lot of like different things where you and I could, we could be friends, let's say, and all of a sudden you bought an NFT for a concert, let's say, and you could invite, because you bought a higher tiered NFT, you could invite one friend, and you call me and you say, hey, you want to go to the concert? And I'm cool. Yes, I want to do it. And I put some glasses on like this, and all of a sudden I get transported into the concert that you're attending physically. And I look to my side and I see you, and I can enjoy the concert. There's going to be a lot more like immersive stuff like that, a lot of gaming stuff, learning stuff. And I want to really take this into the wellness space, where now we'll use it in a way that we'll be able to heal people. They'll enjoy it. They'll be able to get home from work and have a greater experience.
Yeah, I think one of the beautiful things is that with Web3, you're able to connect with so many different people that share your same vision. Because you mentioned about Yogapetz, which I think could is actually a great leading to our next question, which is about, with the introduction of blockchain, NFTs, and the metaverse, like how all of this would revolutionize the wellness industry. So maybe we could move on to Yogapetz, and you could share more about how this all happened. Because I know Yogapetz, you are the lead wellness guru and advisor, but you were at the same time building your own community as well. So how does both of this come together?
Yeah, I think that if I listen to my recordings, it's almost like prophetic, but it's prophetic only because as I spoke about it, I kept executing, I kept acting. The difficult thing that people don't realize is that I can have as many dreams as I want, but if I don't act and execute in the now to make my dreams a reality, it will never come to fruition. And by the way, it's so easy to come up with ideas, really. But what's difficult, and you know this, with setting up everything that you've been doing, and you've been growing rapidly lately, is all the execution, all the sacrifice, the hard work. You're not focused on numbers. You're trying to push yourself. You're trying to produce quality. And so as the months wore on, I kept looking for different avenues to provide what I was doing, like events and stuff like that to create awareness. And I saw a project called the Yogapetz, and I didn't know anything. I hadn't gone to their website or anything. I just said, yoga, great. Let me reach out to the team. So I opened a ticket and I told them, look, this is who I am, and I'd love to do an event for your community. I think they would like it. Nothing. They responded and they were just busy. I was busy. But I just kept persisting. Probably my best trait is perseverance. I don't give up. And I talk about like many different examples of many people that were rejected many times until they got a yes. And eventually it just clicked. And I think it was like the first week of August, actually on the day of my birthday, August 3rd, I did an event for the Yogapetz. And I think the next day or the day after, I was meeting with the founder. And once I met with them, it just seemed to click. And very quickly, I ended up just kind of taking over as the head of really the entire kind of branch of the teachings and the learning and the events. I started to really think about the project, think about the app and the platform, and think about how what I was doing could fit in what they was doing. So Digimonkz is, I'm building it to be like a premium offering. So it's going to be a mega resort within the app. Think of like a Web3 version of Gaia or Yoga International, where they just provide content that other people produce, and you pay a membership fee, right? But you have to pay a membership fee for the rest of your life, or monthly or yearly. But what NFTs do is that if I really am into wellness, I can pay a one-time fee and have a lifetime of benefits. Digimonkz is basically like a digital pilgrimage. If you've ever wanted to be with a guru, a master, but you don't want to leave the city world, the modern amenities where you're living, you have family, you have friends, you have a life, and you can't take that pilgrimage into the mountains You can do it now digitally, and that's what I want to facilitate. Because I don't say it lightly, the title of guru, I don't take that lightly. Number one, I've been doing it for a very long time, and I reached a peak state that allows me to be able to teach other people in that fashion. And then what the Yogapetz allows this now to do is for this to go mainstream. Not just what I'm doing, but for anyone. So anyone that's a content creator in, there's many people teaching in the space that are teaching yoga, meditation, mindfulness, breathing, stuff about crystals, connecting with nature, law of attraction, blah, 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 alternative theory, heartbreak coherence, stuff about mindful investing or wellness, what have you, holistic health, eating healthier. All of these different principles that are really mainstream, that are going to go parabolic now, because we're going to push an agenda now for everybody to start trying to take care of themselves. And what are going to people do? They're going to be looking for avenues to learn this, because education is key. And since I've been an educator for well over 2 decades, and I've taught at every level, Yale med students, Yale graduate students, Yale undergrads, I've taught health professionals, all the way down to high school and middle school. And I've even tested my younger kids programs with elementary school level kids. And I've taught, really young kids as well. And so we have like these really grand ideas for this. Obviously, the Yogapetz app, think of it as kind of like a Animal Crossing, where the Yogapetz NFT, the little animals, are like the little characters that you would play in Animal Crossing. The resort is like your little house that you own, that you can improve and add things. And so as you stake your NFT or NFTs, you earn a token that then you can use to build out your resort. So in my case, I would be building it out to make my resort better suited for my brand, and for me to be able to bring in more people, host bigger events. So the bigger the resort, the more people I can house in a sense, or host. And so it allows people to not just, it's like a gamification of the wellness experience. So I'm rewarded for learning. I'm rewarded for healing myself in a sense. So maybe you've played a game where, I don't know, think of like World of Warcraft, where I played World of Warcraft, and I remember having to fish, let's say, or to mine something, and I spent hours mining or fishing. Why couldn't we have a gamified experience where now I'm spending time for my own well-being, but I'm rewarded for doing so, and then I'm rewarded and I can use it within the game ecosystem in a way that is rewarding for me, whether it's buying an outfit for my pet, making my resort better, hosting an event for other people in the community. But at the same time, as I learn and I level up, and people can see me in the, kind of moving up the leaderboards, I can then now actually use that to my advantage. If I'm a leader in mindfulness, guess what? It's registered on the blockchain. People know I've actually gone through all of these courses, and now people respect me because I'm part of the community. I'm not just some random person. I can now be like in Gaia. Gaia would never hire me now because nobody really knows me except for people in the space. But now I could actually, anybody in the world could actually host their own event and charge for their events and earn some of the token, and then use that token to exchange it in a liquidity pool, what have you, exchange it for Ethereum to pay their bills, or they can use it to buy stuff in the app, what have you. So really, we haven't done a formal AMA on this, but it's it gives you a view of how the potential that we have here, where it takes really this to another level. So, we don't have time today to talk about this, but, I have ideas on how to test it in the educational system to change how we teach our children and how we integrate wellness into teaching. I have ideas for integrating this into business, so on and so forth. So it's really like a massive undertaking.
Between our private discussions, right, you kind of mentioned about the huge potential when it comes to mindfulness and wellness for children, especially nowadays. You mentioned about children embracing technology at such an early stage. And at the same time, that could be detrimental to a certain extent for mental health. Like you have, like in the past, we don't have a lot of people judging us, right? But now you have social media, you have people judging what you're eating or how you look. So this is such a huge untapped space, especially when you talk about yoga pets, because it's being gamified in a way that you have a lot of these different pets. You have different type of 3D arts and animation and stuff like that, which you kind of mentioned about that aspect. So yeah, that's why I was very using the Web3 word, very bullish on this. But what I'm more bullish is about your vision, because without vision, without and also your team, right? Because you have people who could help you execute this. We saw it on the website. Kurz is a great developer in this space, and so you kind of really answered all of the questions that I wanted to ask about how blockchain, the metaverse, could revolutionize this wellness industry. So just moving on, like, because I think our time is quite short right now, but how could the viewers support you or participate in what you're building?
I think that the best thing is if anybody that listens to this recording and wants to be a part of Digimonkz and have an opportunity to mint when we expand the collection, they can go to my Twitter at BebeChez_eth or to Digimonkz.com. And there's my email at the bottom, and they can for the Digimonkz email, and they can reach out and inquire, and I can send them the application. Anybody that has the application in, right now they're guaranteed a mint. But if it grows too quickly, then for me it's like most people that apply will be guaranteed a mint, because we're going to keep expanding and growing this. So I would suggest joining the Yogapetz Discord so that they can start getting involved with the community and pay attention to the events. If they follow my Twitter, I'm doing events every week. I want to paint a quick picture because this is important. Right now, you mentioned this with regards to kids and education and stuff. Right now, I've been educated for many years. Our teachers are stressed. Our children are struggling with anxiety. Their scores are down across all measures. Attention deficit going up, autism spectrum. So many measures, I tweeted about this recently, are just through the roof. And the way that we go about education is really detrimental for their mental health. And so if the generation of the 16 to 21-year-old, when they are parents and they have children, they're going to be the first parents likely that will not necessarily require their kids to go to college and whatever. People are going to be learning in a different way. And it's going to be a lot more a la carte. It's going to be a lot more streamlined. And this is something that I want to really do in the space and really change. I want people to really learn what best suits their inner genius, what really allows them to thrive and flourish. And so we really are in a pivotal time with a lot of major changes occurring. And so we really need to take advantage of this time and really prepare and get educated and really strengthen ourselves. And that's what we're here about, really to kind of create a refuge away from all of this madness. And in particularly to take the younger generation, which I feel can really change the world for the better, and to really allow them to have longevity and health and power so that they can really keep building and creating in the digital space a better, more trustworthy and sustainable future. Because ultimately, no matter what happens, we've seen that all the bad actors really come from a centralized background, from an old model that they're trying to take advantage and tarnish this new model. This new decentralized model, community-based, where we count and we matter, is what really is the future. And so really, if you want to get involved, All you need to do is just send me an email or direct message me on Twitter. And I'm looking for collaborators and contributors. And we're going to build something amazing, whether it's with Digimonkz or Yogapetz. Really, we're both kind of like the same family. I don't see really a separation. It's just really Digimonkz is me building out what's really going to be kind of like a premier feature for the Yogapetz, what's really going to draw in a lot of users. And then we're going to supplement that with other offerings from other great people, including some that are already in Digimonkz, that I've already experienced their work and I really hold them very highly, as well as people that we haven't. Just as a kind of like teaser, we are in the background trying to work out a connection with Sadhguru. And I'm hoping that this can finally work out because we not only want to help make their NFT project a success, but we would love to onboard them into the NFT space and potentially into our platform so that they can reach all these people that are hungry and starving, as well as other people that are out there in Web2 doing amazing work. Some of them are very famous. We have this kind of vision to kind of do this all-encompassing phenomenon, and it'll be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful statement that you made towards the end, and it is a very great conclusion. And one thing you did highlight a point, and that is in the Web3 space, because of tokenization, right? Not only do you create content, and not only you're able to sustain in your mental space, but in the physical space as well. You can feed a lot of people, really not only hungry for spiritually, but because there's this whole tokenization aspect and liquidity aspect, people could finally be rewarded for what they're building, for what they're preaching, and it really helps them to help even more people. So this concludes the end of our show. Thank you so much for joining, Dr. Ramos. You are indeed a guru in the space. Please continue building. We really need people to preach mental wellness, especially in such a dark times. I would say this is like a dark time in the crypto space. So anyways, for those of you who like the content, remember to press like and subscribe, press the bell for the latest update. Appreciate that if you could follow both of our social media. The links will be in the description below. And until next time, live every day non-fungibly. Thank you, Dr. Ramos.